What is going on, Clippers fans? Welcome to Season 2, Episode 58 of Clips and Dip. I am Chuck Mockler, joined by Adam Oslin and William Updike. Today we're going to be talking, the horrible brunch back-to-back that's coming up. We're going to be answering some Clippers fan questions. We got a brand new segment to start the show off with. But if you're new to the show, welcome. If you've been with the show, thank you. You can listen to us anywhere you find pods. Find us on YouTube over at youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. Before we get into this brand new segment, how are my co-hosts doing, guys? The Clippers are kind of up and down right now. Will, how are you doing on this sunny Friday evening in Los Angeles?
I'm doing pretty good. No idea what to expect from this weekend. Really not looking forward to it, man. And that is not a phrase you hear me say on a Friday very often, that I'm not looking forward to the weekend. So, things are a little up in the air Clippers-wise. But I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Looking forward to a couple of early games, I guess.
Adam, how are you today?
I'm good. I know what to expect from this weekend. As Mr. T said in Rocky 3, pain. Now, it could be for the other team. It could be for the Clippers. We're going to find out together. It's great.
It could be both. Yeah. They got the back-to-back with daylight savings in the middle of it. We're going to get into all that in just a few. But first, we have a brand new segment here on Clips and Dip. If you're watching on YouTube, you're going to love this. If you're listening, you're also going to love it because of how expressive Adam is when he breaks down some film. Adam, what are we watching? What segment are we in right now?
Well, I don't know. We kind of impromptu did a little film session last time out, Chuck and I, here on the YouTube, and people seem to enjoy it. I had a good time with it. Now, obviously, it helps if you're watching on the YouTube channel. We appreciate all the new listeners, all the new viewers, the subscribers here. So I guess I'm calling it, and Will's name's great, Adam's song. This may be more illuminating to what we're doing here. I'm calling it the high five. 5 clips from the last game. High as in highlights here. So the Clippers were able to come back against the Houston Rockets, down by 20 after putting up 78 points in the second half of that last game. They completely turned things around offensively. It was one of their more impressive offensive showings in some time, especially when you consider when Chuck and I were previewing that game, we talked about the Houston Rockets. I think their last 10 or last 15 games are post All-Star break. What were they, Chuck? 12th defensively?
Yeah, they were better defensively than the Clippers. They were 12th. Clippers are 15th.
Yeah, well, on the season, Houston is 7th defensively.
God damn.
Which is kind of shocking. It shocked me too. I didn't see that coming, but as I share the screen here, I think you guys are seeing what I'm seeing and not one of my dating app tabs that's open right now.
On your desktop?
On my desktop.
Can you use dating apps on desktops? I don't know. I'm not on dating apps, but
well,
is that Plenty of Fish?
We have the technology in many ways. Now, ChristianMingle.com I'm on right now. No, is this Farmers Only or?
Yeah.
So the Clippers were able to turn things around, even though they were still down heading into that fourth quarter. And I'm going to start with this first clip. There's some bad clips. There's some negative stuff. There's some positives here. 5 clips for you. First one, a little miscommunication on the defensive end by the Clippers, something we have seen far too often post the Grammy road trip. Şengün just picked up his dribble. He's going up in the near side short corner against Mason Plumlee. But because he's been cooking, Paul George comes over to double. He realizes, Şengün just picked up his dribble. Mason Plumlee can take it from here. But on his way back, because Norman Powell came over to cover for PG on Thompson, there's a little miscue here between Paul George and Norman Powell going out to guard Dylan Brooks on the right wing. It ends up with an easy Şengün bounce pass to Thompson for the dunk. Watch PG. Look at Norman Powell looking back at Paul George here on this, because I believe he knew he was going to get back on Dylan Brooks, and Paul George had to get back to his man in Thompson. Yet still a little bit of bickering there after the play. I guess to some degree you like it because it means they care. They're trying to get better in that area. The next one's obvious. It's one of the best plays of the ball game. It's James Harden here after we saw that three-pointer there from Paul George. Top side. He's got Fred VanVleet against him. Now, when you lose a little bit of speed, as James Harden has in his career, he's had a lot of hamstring injuries. He's 34 going on 35 now, but he's still got enough, and he was showing it off in this game. He was getting downhill a little bit more. What you got to do is start the motor and rev it up a little bit further out, because it used to be with him, if he's even with his defender, he's leaving. No longer the case. So he starts a little bit further out, blows past Fred VanVleet, and this is one of the best passes we have seen so far this season. It's James Harden. It's something he does, but while Mason Plumlee thought it might be going to him, he collapsed the defense to the point where he's got 4 guys on him. And I mentioned the Houston Rockets being 7th defensively. They've been really good holding teams. They're top 10 when it comes to opponent points in the paint per game. So this is what they do. They're overly aggressive. Plus the fact that James Harden has already scored once getting to the basket. Kicks it all the way out to Kawhi Leonard here. Not only do we have Kawhi wide open, but look at Mason Plumlee here. He gets a little hip check in on Jabari Smith Jr., just giving Kawhi a little bit more time there to get the 3-pointer to go. So some of those little things, a little veteran savvy play there by Mason Plumlee, like seeing that. Now we have a little bit more from Big Plum here. I'm calling this a good recovery. And this is an entire sequence here as it leads to our next play. But this was big. Some transition points for the Clippers. But before that, we have a little high pick and roll from the Houston Rockets, giving the Clippers a little bit of taste of their own medicine. Sengun is going to set the screen here on James Harden. It's Jalen Green with the basketball. Mason Plumlee shows a little too much coming to his right. We know his limitations defensively as James Harden's going high on the screen to try to stick with Green, which is not going to happen, obviously. So here's Mason Plumlee just out of position. He's on his heels now. Jalen Green said, I'm not going to try to go around him and then run into Kawhi Leonard, even though he could have given it up to Smith Jr. Instead, he gives it back to Sengun. He's going the other way. Mason Plumlee's behind him, but here's a nice recovery by the Clippers on the defensive end. They completely collapse the paint here. Sengun's worried about an offensive foul against Norman Powell, which gives Mason Plumlee time to recover here on the back end for the huge swat. Now the Clippers got numbers. They're going the other way. Sengun's complaining on the other end, whether it was a foul or not. You know, if you're a Clipper fan, you're not feeling bad for anyone. Clippers got 5-on-4 here. You got to give it to your ball handler. So here's Norman Powell to James Harden. Harden with the basketball, and he sees that Dillon Brooks still has his back to Kawhi Leonard here. Now give it to your big dog. It's Kawhi Leonard on the right wing with it. Dillon Brooks has to recover and overreacts on the closeout. Kawhi maybe could have got it to Mason Plumlee there down low as he ran the floor the right way for a big man, get to the basket. Instead, he goes in, collapses the paint once more. Look at this feed from Kawhi Leonard. He looks to his left, looking like he's going to give it up to Norman Powell, to the point where Green gets spun around, and instead Kawhi gives it up to Paul George in the far side corner for a wide open 3-pointer. Just a beautiful pass and one of Kawhi's 2 no-look passes in the ball game. One more for you here in our high five, and this is kind of ending things on a low light here. This is more bad defense by the Clippers here after Kawhi got that and 1 bucket to go over Jabari Smith Jr. Okay, so here's Fred VanVleet. Paul George is on him. Jabari Smith Jr. comes over. James Harden reacts like he's going to set a hard screen on Paul George, and they're going to switch. Instead, it's a ghost screen. It's Jabari Smith Jr. just faking out the screen. James Harden's way out of position here still, but both guys are. So he gets a wide open 3-pointer when the Clippers are up by 5. This was a huge shot to get the Houston Rockets right back into it with under 2 minutes left. They just have to tighten things up there. Not enough communication. You see here James Harden looking at Paul George. I think Paul George was in the right on this one, but there you go. Just 5 plays there. Some stuff the Clippers can work on, some positive things as well. There's your little film breakdown here on Clips and Dip.
That was the first Adams high five. We did it. The first officially licensed one. The Clippers play the Bulls and Bucks this weekend. Oh, we got all Adam right here. What if we did this one?
How do I change that?
Like
this is not the way, guys.
Good, right? Well, yay or nay?
No, it's not.
Just leave it.
All right. So the Clippers play the Bulls at 1 on Saturday. Then they get to enjoy daylight savings time before playing the Bucks at 12 on Sunday. I don't know the last time a team had to play 2 games in less than 24 hours, but it doesn't feel like it happens very often. This is horseshit, right, Will? This schedule?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it feels like we're getting every single last one of these either terrible brunch games or a rough as hell back-to-back thrown at us in our final year booking in Crypto.com Arena. So I'm so ready to be done with this, man. I'm like, I got senioritis with this brunch game shit.
Yeah, I'm just drilling holes in the piece of wood right now. Adam, you're going to be at both of these games, correct? How are you?
No, I can't.
Why?
You know why? Because they're early games. Because the Kings play later tomorrow and the Lakers play later on Sunday night. So I get kicked out because I wouldn't be able to do the post game show because they're breaking stuff down right after the Clippers game is over. That's a long process and undertaking for the turnover.
Those are crazy nights. If you've ever been able to watch them start that process, it's pretty terrifying. Just in terms of how much stuff has to actually get done.
The Lakers have a game on Sunday night.
I think they have. Who are they playing? Is it Minnesota?
Yeah, they play the Timberwolves on Sunday.
On Oscar night.
Will's like,
doesn't it seem weird? Doesn't it seem weird? I don't know.
I guess.
And the award to most inconsistent team in the league goes to.
Do you think the Oscars should be held at Staples?
No, absolutely not. They gotta be in Hollywood, baby.
All right, we're gonna do our Oscar picks later in the show, but we got to talk about Clippers versus Bulls. The Bulls are 5-3 since the All-Star break. They're shooting just under 35% from three. They're top 8 in offensive rebounds per game. They only score in the mid-range, pretty much. I was looking at where their points come from. Bottom 10 in percentage of points from paint buckets, and bottom 5 in percentage of points from the three-point line. So their buckets are coming from the mid-range. Adam, is this kind of a case? We don't really know Zoo's availability, so let's say Zoo's available. Is this a case of like you kind of clamp down on DeMar and things become seemingly infinitely easier for the Clips?
Yeah, that's something the Kings were not able to do when Chicago came back on them down 22. DeMar got cooking. But this is an interesting matchup because recently, who did they do it against? The Bulls have thrown out Vucevic and Andre Drummond. They've gone uber big, and I wonder how the Clippers are going to try to counter that. Are they going to go even smaller? That's something Robert Flom said on 2 and 3 Hoops recently. Like, are they going to try? I don't know. Daniel Tice next to Mason Plumlee or Ivica Zubats. PJ Tucker has had plenty of those opportunities next to one of those bigs, but Daniel Tice has not gotten one. It's just, I don't understand.
Would shoot, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
He's been shooting more. He has. He's been making less while taking those shots, but he is taking them.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Yeah, I don't know. If Zoo doesn't go, I'm way more worried about this game. Vooch is averaging 22 and 12 since the All-Star break, which is quite a bit of points. Will, it seemed like they were just like worried about Zoo having headaches and stuff like that. Like, where's he at with the Zoo timeline? The injury report will probably come out in a couple of minutes here, but I'm worried if Zoo can't go.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Adam and I talked a little bit about that post game, and like, not luckily, it's still not great, but it's like an illness situation because I thought what they originally said on the broadcast was that he was having some issues mobility-wise.
It was worded weird, yeah. They said like he wasn't moving well, which I think
exactly, yeah.
You're automatic like, so he's hurt, or something like that.
Or there's soreness or tightness or something. But it being like a physical illness is definitely different. I wonder if he was just having a migraine or something.
Dude, that'd be brutal. Kobe White's another guy who could maybe light the Clippers up a little bit in terms of a guy who's fast and from point of attack. He's also playing 40 minutes a game this season. Or since the All-Star break, he's playing 40 minutes a game, which makes me think, like, if we're not putting DeMar in action on defense, let's put the guy who's going to have to play 95% of the minutes in this game. Let's have him running around out there.
I don't mind that. DeMar DeRozan, by the way, has been averaging 27 over like his last 15, 20 games now. I just looked. Chicago's last 10 games, they're 10th offensively. Now, they're 20th defensively during that time, but they're 10th offensively. The last 10 games, they've been playing much better. No Zach LaVine, doesn't seem to matter. This team still has enough, I guess, potent offensive players to scare you. So you can't take them lightly, especially on the front end of a back-to-back. You would hope. Best case scenario is what? The Clippers put them away late in the third quarter.
That feels like
Is
best
that
case
being
scenario.
greedy because you just want to win at this
No, I think
point?
that's best case scenario.
Yeah. Well, I mean, their shot profile is super weird too, right? So that offense, it kind of revolves around the mid range. So how the Clippers opts to deal with that, I think, will say a lot about the game. And if they're able to throw them out of a rhythm, DeMar especially, it definitely gives them a much better shot. But on the other end of the floor, it just depends on what version of the Clippers offense we're going to see. You showed some highlights there, but I feel like there's kind of been a lot of lowlights recently. Ty Lue certainly talked about how slow they are to get into everything. And this is a recurring theme. Like, this isn't even the first time that he's said something like this. Zach Lowe, who is like one of the larger media people who does talk about the Clippers on a fairly regular basis, constantly brings up the quote where early on in James Harden's tenure where Ty Lue said, we're just walking around on offense. And it feels like that has kind of been a through line for this Clippers team. So, I'm not overly optimistic for a 2-0, but I would really like to see another step in the right direction. Adam and I talked about this a little bit after the Rockets win postgame. And yes, after being on the losing end of a couple of 20-point swings or double-digit swings, it's nice to get the win in. I'm now looking for like some more sustained good play from this team because when I actually look at the calendar, it hasn't been that long, but it feels like quite a long time since the elation of the Grammy road trip.
Yeah, the process. I'm kind of on the same train of like, let's get the process in play here. And this this is a defense that's going to test the Clips a little bit. Harden and Kawhi have not been shooting well since the All-Star break from three. Kawhi's at 29%. Harden's at 34%. Harden's obviously taking a lot more than Kawhi, but I mean, I hope they can. Yeah.
It goes back further with Kawhi.
Yeah.
It's been kind of under the radar. Like his last 15 games, he hasn't shot it well from three after for so long he was at 50% or above.
Yeah.
And you could say that's coincided with the Clippers not shooting well from three. Going into that game against the Houston Rockets, they were 35% their last 11 games post Grammy road trip. Now they ended up shooting, I think, 41% from the outside, and Houston held teams going into that game to 34.5% from three. So they actually finally in the second half when they got hot, and what were they at? Like 65% or 68% from the field in the second half. They had 78 points. Like they got unlocked, and it was just high pick and roll. And Coach Lue said post game, he basically gave out the numbers like when we get into our offense within the first 12 seconds of the shot clock, we're one of the top three offenses. When we don't, we're one of the worst offenses in the league. It's that simple. So it's almost encouraging that it's not necessarily a talent thing or somebody they're missing. It's just play faster, not necessarily in transition. Just play faster within the half court. Get to the pick and roll faster. That shouldn't be that difficult to do.
And what's contributing to this at this point? Like, does this team feel that they've seen enough, they've done enough that they can kind of like rest a little bit, for lack of a better term? Like I'm just unclear because like I said, we've been saying the same things. Ty Lue has certainly been saying the same things. There's not much more he can do. Right. We have Kawhi giving second quarter motivational speeches to the team. Like I'm just not sure where this like lethargy is really stemming from. I don't know if it's sort of an in-game rest thing, or like there's some tentativeness with being in the doldrums of the season and trying to maybe keep a little in the tank for to finish out the year and head into the playoffs. But it's not a conference where you can afford to rest, and certainly not for this Clippers team with how up and down they've been and how, I mean, you don't want to fall lower than 4. I feel like at this point the ceiling for anything above that feels pretty much closed, but you don't want to fall any further.
I think they'll stick at 4. Yeah, I'm not worried about them. They're 3.5 games up on the Pels. I think they're going to be at 4, but I agree. It feels like we're in the switch flip territory. We're in the switch is down now. and then they're going to flip it up when they want to really start getting. I don't know, but I see what you're saying with that.
While 4 does seem the most likely landing spot for the Clippers in the standings, it's becoming more and more concerning to me because the Nuggets are coming for that 1 seed,
One game
guys.
out.
Now with Cat out for the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Nuggets have lost 1 game post All-Star break. They gave it up in a big comeback by the Phoenix Suns, as they probably were looking ahead to that Boston game that they ended up winning last night. And they're humming now. Like, they have locked in this Nuggets team. They know they have 3 games left against Minnesota. They're a game back of them.
Wow.
Minnesota's going to be without Cat, and they're only a half game back of the OKC Thunder. I think there's a real good chance the Denver Nuggets end up with a 1 seed, which means you do not want to be 4 because then you'll get them in the second round.
That is very true. Clips are 2 games out of the 3 seed, so not inconceivable that they could get the 3 seed. But you know what? That would really help getting the 3 seed, beating the Bulls at 1 p.m. On Saturday. How have we felt about Bones as the backup point guard? He got some time with Paul George out there. We did see him and Norm a little bit in that game against the Rockets.
With Harden, too, out there. He and Bones were on the court. The start of the fourth quarter lineup was kind of rough.
Yeah.
But they were trying to buy PG a little bit more time.
We got to hope those are on point. Ty Lue with the serious rotations would be nice to see on Saturday. But what are we grading Bones so far? Is it still kind of an incomplete? It's such a big role to hop into with so much time off. But I want it to be a little better. I don't know.
I like incomplete, inconclusive.
Yeah, inconclusive is
it's
better,
just.
yeah.
I mean, he's been a plus contributor in the 4 games since Russ went down. He's been a plus contributor in 2 of the 4 games.
Okay.
He was a slight negative in the win over Houston and the game at Milwaukee. Both of those make sense though contextually with the Clippers. Going down early and then choking up a lot of points. So that's not that wild. It's kind of net neutral.
Yeah, and that lineup again to start the fourth quarter. What was it? Bones, Harden, Powell, man,
something insane.
It was. They didn't have PG out there. They didn't have Kawhi Leonard. It was tough defensively. That's just okay. It was Bones, Plum, Harden, Amir, man. That was the starting lineup.
A lot of pressure on Terrence right there.
Bones had a couple of really nice downhill attacks in the layup, though, turning the corner on his defender and showing off the speed and athleticism and things we're just not used to seeing at times with this Clippers team because they're older. It was very refreshing to see. I thought for the most part, I would say he's been solid. Like, he has not been a glaring negative, or as much as, they could have used Russ at times against the Rockets, at times against the Milwaukee Bucks. Bones hasn't stood out in a bad way. He hasn't gotten huge minutes yet. Until the Rockets game, they were completely staggering, him and James Harden. When James was on, he was off, vice versa. So I'm okay with it. I think bringing him along slowly like this makes a lot of sense because he was out of the lineup in rotation for just so long.
Physically, he's got to get back. We know he's young, but it's different when you're playing in an actual game. Law Murray brought up a thing about Bones that's interesting too, is kind of he's got a little bit of the catch and shoot hesitation that James Harden had when he first got to the Clippers. His quote was, "Getting Bones to actually shoot it and not hesitate or need to bounce into it has been a thing going back to Hawaii for training camp. But as we all learned a month later, the catch and shoot comfort is a relatable struggle for some guys. Because Bones and PG together can be a fun thing. There's something a little bit there. That was a thread from LA Clippers Film on Twitter, but there's something there. Real quick, are we getting the lick back versus the Bucks? Are we going to beat this Bucks team on 23 hours of in between time with daylight savings? You know they're going to be partying for daylight savings.
Isn't daylight savings, doesn't it happen at the night on Sunday?
I don't know. People were bitching about it on
Monday morning. So it's technically Monday morning.
Yeah, wait. The time doesn't change, does it?
No, it changes Sunday morning.
At 3 a.m.
So-
on Sunday.
It happens at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
or 3 a.m. late Saturday
Get this
night, early
shit
Sunday
outta
morning.
Here. We don't need it anymore.
I disagree.
You love it. You
Yeah,
love the back-to-back with this schedule.
Oh no, I thought you meant daylight savings.
Oh, I did mean daylight savings.
I don't like losing an hour or whatever, but I like it being lighter out later. Also, you know who doesn't do daylight savings or daylight spendings? Arizona. Do you want to be more? Do you want to have more policies like Arizona?
I really do not. Adam, are they getting the lick back versus the Bucks? Probably going to be a healthier Bucks team this time.
Yeah, Giannis is likely to play. Now the Bucks just got blown out.
Great.
35 by the Golden State Warriors. But they're taking on the Lakers tonight at the time of this recording. So they're looking to get their lick back.
LeBron.
And they're no LeBron in that game. That's confirmed. See, I'm telling the Lakers now are just like, whatever. We can't get above 9th. So we might as well just prioritize health and just be as healthy as possible for the play-in, basically.
That makes sense.
Which is smart because they're not going, they're not getting out of that. But I hope the Lakers still challenge them tonight and make them earn it, I guess. I want them to lose in the end, as always. I don't care if they're playing Denver. I don't care if they're playing OKC or Minnesota. I can't help myself. I can't root for the Lakers, even when it would benefit the Clippers for them to win. It's kind of dependent on what happens with the Clippers against Chicago and how difficult that game is. And it could be very difficult. And it's also dependent on what the Bucks do against the Lakers, but they're going to be waiting for the Clippers. So that's obviously no good. I think they got a good chance of winning that game on Sunday. I'll put it like that.
Will?
Like I said, I think they split the weekend.
Fair. That's a diplomatic way to say that. Who is? No, I do not think they win on Sunday. I'm just going to go out and say it. I hope they do. That's a tough game. I wish it was flipped. Who is our Kawhi Leonard player of the game picks for both games? One player for both games. Who's gonna have the best brunch weekend of their life and daylight savings time? We haven't talked about any of the backup centers, but they might be they're going to be incredibly important this weekend if Zoo's not at 100%.
Plum had a hell of a second half against Houston.
He really turned things around in that third quarter. That was major.
Oh, we got the injury report. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and James Harden are all questionable for the game against Chicago. Kawhi,
like I said, we split.
Kawhi with left groin soreness, Paul George with left groin soreness, James Harden with a left shoulder strain. Get these guys some crystals, folks.
All the left side, huh? What's going on there?
What side is your wallet on? Can we get what side do you see on? That doesn't feel good, right?
Do we have to start over?
No, we don't have to. The season? No, I mean.
Well, I'm going Bones Highland, so.
Yeah, that's a big Bones game now. Amir Coffey's my pick.
What the fuck do we do if all three of those guys are out? Kobe Brown time.
What
baby?
Are the chances all three are out?
Does that make you feel better? Does that make you feel better about Sunday, Chuck?
Maybe because they'll play Sunday. Sit them all. Get the young guys some run against the Bulls. We'll lose by 35. We'll beat the Bucks.
It feels like they're looking at Sunday. They're looking towards Sunday a little bit here. Maybe not.
I certainly hope so. But it feels like they are.
Maybe Big Zoo. Okay, Big Zoo wasn't on there,
he's not.
Right? Hey, Big Zoo not on there. Maybe the 2 days of rest, Big Zoo is back into form. He can go heavy minutes and battle against the bigs from the Chicago Bulls tomorrow.
All right. That's fair. I'm going to go PJ Tucker. He's probably going to get some run in these matches if these guys are out.
PJ Tucker is going to be your Kawhi Leonard player of the game.
Yeah, he's going to average 0.75 and 2. And we're going to need it.
Right on.
No, I'm going to go it's Norm. Norm's going to go.
Why doesn't Norm get a rest? This is bullshit.
That's true. Norm has a giant scar on his forehead. after being elbowed harder than anyone's been. Oh, this is something I brought up and I wanted you guys to take before we get into Clippers fan questions. In your memory, has there ever been a season where the Clippers as a team have collectively bled this much?
Oh, wow.
Oh, there will be blood.
There's a lot of blood. I mean, Norm was leaking.
As the
Tice
red
was
jerseys
bleeding.
are coming back.
Yeah.
I think Terrence took a cut. Like,
did Mason get didn't he get elbowed in the nose last game?
He did.
We got a
right.
bleeder.
Like, it's pretty close. Other than when Austin Rivers.
Old Faithful season.
Yeah. Ugh, it's tough. All right. Well, let's answer some Clippers questions after this break. Now that we got the news that Kawhi, Paul George, and James Harden are questionable. That's a good time, I guess.
I don't know, man. This really threw a wrench in that plans.
All right. Well, coming up after these perhaps loud ads, we're going to be answering Clippers fans' questions. If the ads have been loud for you, go ahead and turn it down. If they haven't, consider yourself lucky. We got ads and then Clippers questions coming up in 3, 2, 1.
Welcome back into Clips and Dip. We just got handed some very surprising injury news right at the break. If somehow you're tuning into this mid-episode, you're insane. Thank you. But the Clippers will be down. James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George. They are all questionable. Yeah.
They might be down, those guys. They're not. We don't know.
Maybe it's a trap.
What are the chances?
Maybe it's a trap.
All of them.
But anyways, we took some of your Clipper questions over on Twitter.com. That's at ClippersPod. Yeah, let's get into it. Daniel Perez wants to know, what does a successful March look like? Charles, as the resident March expert, what does a good March look like to you?
Good process is what I want to see the most of as the Clippers close out March. It kind of goes back to what you were saying against the Bulls.
8 and 9. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I'm saying 8 and 9, baby. No, record-wise, anything over 10, and I'm pretty ecstatic. That's a good 17-game month.
Three games over 500, essentially.
Sure. Anything over 10 or 10 or more, I'm okay with. But the process is what I want to see. We have not seen good process in a minute from the Clippers. And if they can stack that for the back 2 weeks or whatever, A, they'll get wins because it's very rare that they would lose with good process. And B, we'll feel a lot better going into April where they do get a little bit of time to rest. But I just want to see good process. I want to see Paul George back to more consistent. See when it comes to shooting. I'm not worried about Kawhi Leonard's 3-point percentage. That's going to come back up. Hope Bones can get more comfortable in his role because that's going to be maybe an issue in the playoffs as well, right? Like Russ, the reports are very optimistic right now, it feels like, but we're not going to know for a while. 10 plus wins and good process the last 2 weeks. That to me is a successful March.
Diplomatic answer. Weak?
What do you want me to say? Sign. You know what they should have done is sign Kai Jones. That's what you wanted me to say. You wanted me to join the Kai Jones conspiracy crew.
Well, I mean, we got a question coming up later about one of your favorite Clippers, Jason Preston.
Yeah, that's true.
Who maybe needs to be tossed in the mix. Do you think he'll get run in this Bulls game? Anyways, Adam, where are you at on March? What do you want to see? What are you hoping for? Give us your bold record take.
Well, I picked 11-6, but I think 12-5 or above would be successful because I gauge it by staying in the. I gauge it by staying in the hunt for a top 3 seed, and I think 12-5 or better will do that for this team. Because while Denver's rising, Minnesota without Karl Anthony Towns could fall back a little bit. Denver has the easiest schedule of the top 4 remaining.
Doesn't OKC too? I thought OKC had one of the easiest schedules.
Well, it's not as easy as Denver's, basically. Top of the top 3 teams remaining, OKC is at 15, Denver's at 22, Minnesota is at 12. All of a sudden, they got, because of those 3 games left against Denver, they got 2 against the Cavs, 2 against the Suns, 2 against the Lakers, 1 against the Clippers. Obviously, they still got a game against Golden State Warriors. There is a chance that the T-Wolves could backslide here. And that's who the Clippers could maybe jump to get the 3 spot. I don't know. Could be interesting unless Ant is blocking the
That
living
was
S out
crazy.
of everyone to win games in the most dramatic fashion possible. He's great. So yeah, I think 12-5 or better would be very successful, but I picked 11-6. I'm kind of regretting it. What, they're 3-1 so far?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Will, what's your successful?
Will?
My
ours are weak.
successful. You just
16-1.
Let's see. 13-4.
Damn. I mean, that would be a very successful March.
This would be like lights out. They've achieved every single expectation for me. I don't, it's more of a hope, I guess, than a prediction.
I mean, hope versus prediction. That's an incredible run in this month.
Yeah. My prediction is probably closer to what you said, Chuck, like 10-7, 9-8, something like that.
Not everyone has as rose-colored glasses as you. Not everyone's as up.
Not everyone can be this positive. Not everyone can believe in the Clippers as much as I do.
Looks like more of a violet colored glasses.
Yeah. All right, passing Paisano, assuming an Italian person who's very good at distributing the basketball, said, do you guys think that the Clips' tendency to start slow is sustainable in a playoff context? I understand that the boys are long in the tooth, but I don't think we can rely on comeback wins.
And long in the tooth is such a great
wonderfully worded question. Thank you. I don't want them to be slow starting in the. No, it's not sustainable. I don't want them to be down double digits in the first quarter of every playoff game.
We talked about flipping the switch, and as much as I hate the idea of that, and it's kind of become like a cliched thing. I do expect the play to look somewhat different, but we might see in a series like game 1 or 2, sort of those slow starts. I think between Ty Lue making some adjustments to the lineup and just guys, knowing at that point, you're not really seeing a whole lot new from your opponent. It just kind of comes down to the possession battle. I would expect things to look a lot differently. But, let's not forget this team's best playoff run so far came when they went down 0-2 in every single series. So, it's not unprecedented that they would drop a game or two due to this kind of style, but I don't think it would be a consistent through a 7-game series if it's one you're hoping to put away.
So I'm not so concerned about them starting slow in the playoffs because earlier today I had this thought regarding this issue because since February 1st, they're 22nd in net rating in first quarters, the Clippers. It's been bad. But remember last season, they were even worse in first quarters throughout the entirety of the year, where the Clippers actually started off much better in that area this season through the first couple of months. And then game 1 hit against Phoenix. And we all were like, oh, they did flip a switch. They look completely different. They are energized. They are playing hard every single possession now. I think the same thing can happen. I think this is just an older team that is going through the motions at times in the regular season because it's long and daunting and unforgiving, especially in March.
That's a good, they're an older team. Long in the tooth is not wrong.
Like they look completely different against Phoenix from possession to possession from the opening tip. Remember, Russell Westbrook was dogging KD. He had like a steal or block on him right away. They were completely engaged.
Yeah, and it trickles down from Kawhi, who is the ultimate person we trust to be able to use this perhaps risky strategy because we've seen him do it and do it very well. Alex Webb. Was the Zoo benching precautionary, or will this ultimately lead to a change at center in the starting lineup? Adam, why don't you go ahead and take this one, big fella?
I've reached oblivion. I don't know where I'm at right now. I can't take any more of this talk. We heard it last season when they first brought in Plum by the anti-Zoo people. Oh, they'd be better with going with Mason Plumlee, actually. Look, he has the reverse dunks. For the love of Pete, guys. Ivica Zubac is one of the top 5 rim protectors in the league. Can we stop with this nonsense? Do I have to pull the on-off numbers defensively from this Clippers team when Ivica Zubac is on the floor and what he means to them defensively? It's been like this for years. We have to stop. I know he fumbles the basketball here and there. That stands out to you much more than all the times that guys shy away of going to the basket because Ivica Zubac is there, apparently. So this season on the court, they're a 110 defense. Off the court, they're a 115. It's been more dramatic than that at times, though. They obviously recently have had some slippage on that and collectively as a team, but they're still over 5 points better per 100 possessions defensively with Ivica Zubac on the floor. I can't do it anymore. I love Big Plum. You know this. He and Daniel Tice are not close to the interior defenders that Ivica Zubac has been. In fact, he's one of the best in the league. When will it be acknowledged?
Will, are you trying to start?
Not on this pod. We've certainly never given Zoo any praise here.
Not when Carl's on. Is that what's doing
Carl's story about having a Zoo jersey but not wanting to frame it because it's not signed, so he would just have an unsigned framed Zoo jersey is very funny. No, I saw someone on Twitter saying that maybe the Clippers, if they play the Timberwolves in the playoffs, should start Daniel Tice. Which, while I do agree that Daniel Tice has a place against the Minnesota Timberwolves, it's not at the very beginning of the game.
Zoo is the starting center.
Yeah.
Zoo is the starting center. He's been the starting center for the entirety of his tenure. It's for a reason. I mean, of course, there have been questions about his ability to close out games. You know, that's been the biggest development we've had this season is the trust and the ability for him to be a big enough offensive threat to be in those positions late in games. We already know what he can do defensively and the way he's been able to improve. So, like I said, I mean, this is like an all caps what with a question mark and an exclamation point. I'm sorry, I just don't see it.
In all caps what? I like that.
I'm going catatonic. I can't.
Can you see?
I can't handle anymore. All I see is Big Zoo being their best protector of the rim, and that's what you need, guys. He's a defensive stalwart in that area, and it has been his entire time with the Clippers. I posted this stuff at Follow Out of May before. What do you want? Not to mention his pick and roll prowess when he and James Harden were humming, and they had it going when the Clippers were at their best.
And you've had multiple humming references this episode. Harden.
I'm sorry. I'm just gonna.
Is the gun out? The gun feels like it's maybe coming out.
No, this is like the beginning of Lethal Weapon, where the gun is like he's got the gun in his mouth.
Will, what's the next question? Let's get off the Zoo. Will, when you weren't here, I had to bring Adam out of the depths of despair at one point. He was really digging himself a hole.
I love Daniel Tice's effort. Have you also seen how many times he gets dunked on? My God, he can't protect the rim like Ivica Zubac. He's way undersized.
True. All right, Clips or Die says, during the Grammy road trip, this team looked like probably the best Clipper team ever. What do you feel is the reason for decline between how the team had played during the road trip and post All-Star break? Do you feel like we can get back to that Grammy road trip form?
Grammy road trip. Yeah, I think they can. I think that coincided with Zoo being out for a little bit and with Paul George having an injury too. It can come back. We talked about just a second ago kind of Zoo starting and that trust being there. It feels like he's going to have to rebuild some more of that trust than maybe I want him to have to rebuild, if that makes sense. The leash on Zoo is shorter than any other player when it comes to what's happening on the court. And really good things were happening when he was closing for the Clippers. So I think losing his damn mind. So I think when Ty Lue is fine with whatever Zoo is doing to the point that he's closing again, we'll see the Clippers closer to that point. But a lot of this does kind of hinge on Bones a little bit and how he's starting to look, because the Clippers every single person on the Clippers was playing phenomenal during that stretch. So I think they can get back there, but I think it's been ticky-tacky injuries and guys being in and out of the rotation. Kind of story of the Clips issues.
Yeah, I'm curious to see like whether it comes this month or whether it's, early next month leading into the playoffs. I expect them to have another dominant run like that. I expect them to tune it up and like really string together some wins in a way. Like they're not going to. I just don't see them doing this sort of back and forth play to finish out the rest of the season. Like, ticky-tacky injuries and tiredness and lethargy or whatever be damned. I think that we'll definitely see one of those. It's just a question of when. And I guess, it does beg the question, were the Clippers peaking too soon? And I still think no. I don't think that they reached their pinnacle yet. And while we're in a bit of a downswing, it feels like, there is the potential to turn that around. So I think we're going to have another dominant stretch like that. I'm just not sure if it's going to be this hellacious month or to start out April.
Second time you said lethargy on the pod.
Well, I mean, that's just a good word.
Lethargy,
that's just a good word.
Adam, are you out of the catatonic state? Can you smell and see again?
I'm spiraling. I just like how there's this thinking that you can pick and choose sometimes when you peak. It's almost like in the NFL. Oh, scored too early, man. You guys are idiots. Like you could just pick and choose when you want to score sometimes or when you want to peak, in this case in the NBA. The Clippers definitely got up emotionally for that road trip. They wanted to go 6-1. They did go 6-1. They proved something to themselves. I think the dog days have hit since then. I think there was mental fatigue coming off of that. I think not having Ivica Zubac close to being the same guy is having an effect on this team right now. They need him to be in the place he was back in December. And it's just natural to have a little bit of a letdown. Now, last 12 games post-Grammy road trip, they are 20th offensively, and they are 19th defensively. But if you're looking for positives over the last 5, they're 7th offensively, and they're 16th defensively. They're trending upwards. They're trending back to where they were. I think they're still that team. I'm not overly concerned about it right now because we've seen, while it's been a weird week and a half where 4 of their last 5 games either had them blowing a double-digit lead or them coming back from a double-digit lead, I still think it's all there with this team.
I like that. It's all there. It is there. They know exactly what they got to do. Venice S2K asks, what are your thoughts on Jason Preston low-key averaging a triple-double in the G League?
Chuck, your favorite player, you should answer this one.
I think it's great for Jason Preston. I don't care about the G League. I don't want to.
I've seen him in NBA games, so yeah,
I'm happy for him.
I'm happy for him.
He looks like he's gotten way more like an
Jordan Miller.
He's killing it in the G League.
Jordan in the G League?
He is.
So should he be starting for the Clippers now? Mr. 46, Brandon Boston?
Jason Preston also looks like he's just grown as a human being. Like size-wise. He was so small and had the foot issue, like I'm happy. It's great.
I hope he makes it onto the squad and gets significant minutes in the NBA level. I still think there's something there with him. It just wasn't going to happen on this Clippers team, obviously, especially once you bring in James Harden.
Commercials for him. I hope he's in more commercials. Be cool. I don't know. All right, a couple more questions here. Little Son says, if he can get his shot back to his career average, is there any chance Bones sticks in the rotation when he puts someone else, so we're just going to say Russ, is fully healthy? He's looked so under control, and that's been conspicuously missing from the non-Harden minutes. Basically, if Russ comes back, is Bones still going to have time in this rotation?
I think that depends on Bones, but I mean, there's certainly the potential there. I think that, everyone on this podcast and, a subsection of Clippers fandom is really in on Bones and sees a lot of the potential there. Going from not playing to, 15 plus minutes is essentially what he'll average while Russ is out, unless things are going terribly wrong.
Not Saturday, maybe.
It is that's a bit of a tough road to hoe from not playing at all. So I think it's natural that it hasn't looked super, like, I guess he as an individual scorer hasn't looked super smooth. Defensively, never really been his thing. He kind of has the physical tools though, and I think even with more time and communication on the floor, that's one of those things that can be improved. That's one of those things that can keep you in Ty Lue's rotation. He has the keys right now. I mean, like, he really has an opportunity here, for better or for worse, to carve out. More than carve out, to demand a spot in this rotation. So I'm really eager to see what he's able to do with it through this month.
That's exactly it. And I think it could come down to if his 3-point shot turns around. If he finds that, then Coach Lue can say, oh, there's utility with him as a playmaker, as a ball handler, and spreading the floor from the outside, which is obviously very different than what Russ brings. That's what I think could end up getting him minutes even when Russ comes back.
Yeah, there's going to be yet another guard crunch and more tools we need more shooters in the playoffs. You look at the rotation and the 3-point shooters, it's a little tough after like Norm. And that's, yeah. Jonathan Eng asks, given Paul George's recent performance being very inconsistent, what do you think his contract value is worth? He is definitely not a max contract player because of his inconsistencies. I tweeted this out during the first part of that Rockets game. Will and I had a spirited discussion about it. I think less than Kawhi is what I think.
Kawhi took what, 3 for 154?
3 for 149.
3 for 149.8.
So let's call it 3 for 150. I think he's top of the ceiling, 3 for 150.
It's really tough. It's just really tough because we don't have the assets to make a trade.
But I want to timestamp that. Also, wait, sorry. So I don't get completely frozen takes. As of Friday, March 8th, 5:41 p.m., 3 for $150. That's $50 a year.
And the free agent class isn't particularly good, so he does have a little bit of leverage in that department. I think though, if he's looking for much more than 3 for 150, that to me would be a let's talk in the offseason conversation. I think if I'm the front office, because I could see maybe a little bit I could see maybe more money on a 1-and-1 or something like that, but like a commitment of more max years, max money. I don't know that I've seen enough, and it's hard too because it is a value proposition. Like, Kawhi has already kind of set the market value, and it's going to be really difficult to argue for much more than that, especially when we have to keep. When we're, likely the intention is to keep James Harden, who's going to need to be taken care of as well.
To be taken care of, given what happened in Philly.
Look, it's not the Clippers' fault. It's nobody's fault. But the guy's left a lot of money on the table. He's going to be, he's not going to take. I don't foresee him taking a big discount unless this team wins a championship. But for Paul George, if 3 for 150. Maybe 3 for 160 isn't getting it done. That to me, if I'm the front office, I'm like, okay, well, we're interested. I think we should touch base again in the offseason.
Let's circle back. Let's circle back.
Yeah.
Adam?
Obviously, Kawhi set the market. He didn't get the max. He didn't want the max, apparently, because I'm sure he could have got it, but he took less to try to keep the team together. So I feel like that should be what everybody's trying to do, right? You want to win. You're back home. You get the perks of all of that. You grew up a Clippers fan. I would like to point out, though, speaking of turning things around, Paul George in 3 of the last 4 games now is getting 24 points on 51% shooting. Over his last 6 games, he's shooting like 43%
crazy
from 3.
From 3. People are missing that part lately. Yeah,
it's just look at the Rockets game. He started 1 for 6. He had 2 points in the first half. He goes 6 for his next 9 and has 19 in the second half, including 2 huge 3-pointers in the fourth quarter.
And that's what Yeah.
So he's coming out of it.
Inconsistencies too. Like that's what fans are especially so frustrated. But it's like he's coming out of it. He's a little banged up.
And I think like at the end of the day, like we take the ups and downs. Adam, I like that you point out that he is back on the swing because I do feel like he draws a lot of heat from Clippers fans. But like if you're talking about like how many killer playoff series does Paul George have as a Clipper, I think you'd be hard pressed for me to agree to more than one.
And he's played in 5 total. It's just not a lot of body of work. He was good against Dallas in that first round too.
No, but he had that off game when Kawhi had like 30 and we lost. Kawhi was unreal. Kawhi was unreal in the Dallas series.
I'm just saying, overall, like he had a good series. Like the first time around against Dallas, he had a solid series too. It was the last.
He closed it out. He closed it out against Utah.
4 games against the Nuggets were good. There were some good. There were a lot of good games in there. I'd say he's had 2 or 3.
Okay, I'll give you 2.
It's like the Utah series, you got to give
Utah
him, right?
series for sure.
The Phoenix series without Kawhi, you got to give him, right?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
If he didn't miss 10 free throws, that series gets extended by at least another game.
I mean, he extended it in game 5 in Phoenix to get it to a 6 game. Like, I think that overall that was a good series without Kawhi, especially when you consider the rebounding he was doing and everything else. Like,
okay, I'll go as high as 2.5.
All right.
So the 3 for 150.
That's how we should negotiate the contract, just like Will and I were doing there.
That's not. That's the Kawhi thing, right? Like he's the one who's saying what he's willing.
And look, I want a guy to get as much as you can. Get as much.
He should want as much as possible. Right? That's not.
He's also
we're not arguing that.
He has to have made more probably on a shoe deal than Kawhi, right? Like the PG is like one of the biggest shoes.
It was the most worn shoe a couple PGs ago, right? Wasn't like the 3 the most worn shoe in the NBA by NBA players, I believe.
Right.
It wasn't. I think it was pre the crazy Kobe crunch, but I don't know. Well, thank you to everyone for the questions. We got these from Twitter. I don't really know how to segue out of that.
That was a great segue, dude.
Sometimes you just need a little pause. Thank you everyone for the questions on Twitter. You can send us questions most of the time over at Clippers Pod. We're not answering anything about Kai Jones, so go yell at 76ers reporters about
Call
that.
Adam. Tell Adam about it on AM 570.
Adam.
570.
Carl says he would love.
That's not even my cross to bear. Like I'm more about the zoo thing.
Carl says he wants to go on the radio at some point. He's too scared to call, he said, but he would love.
Well, how does he go on? We zoom him in.
No, he doesn't want to go in as a caller. He wants more of a. And now we're having.
He wants. He wants the celebrity treatment. We can do that.
That's what I said.
Carl.
I said, reach out. We love Carl.
I'll hook him up with the hotline and everything. But he starts talking bad about Zoo. He's going to be treated just like everybody else.
You're getting doxxed. Sorry, man. We're going to have double dips all weekend for you. We hope your weekend is relaxing and enjoyable. We hope you love daylight savings as much as Will Updike does. But we're going to have the double dips. Adam, what are the double dips?
Well, that's when one of these guys comes on with me post-game on your Clippers post-game call-in show. It's called Clippers Talk. One of them will come on for a meaty segment usually, unless we're up against the clock. What? Will was the last participant. It's a big deal. It's a fun time.
Clips and Dip does meaty segments.
It's a big deal.
Exclusively.
Sometimes I really need them after losses, especially after I've been.
That's my job, baby.
Bludgeoned with negativities by callers, with negative stuff from callers. I need a little bit of positivity at the end.
So hopefully we don't have to do that this weekend. Hopefully they take care of business twice. Get PJ Tucker in there. Average 0.75, a couple of boards will be good. If the Clips do something crazy or something weird happens, we will go live, but only if something weird happens. This is a horrible brunch matchup. It's going to be some rough basketball Saturday and Sunday.
You just named something weird that could happen.
PJ scores more than 10. One of us will be live for sure.
I will demand that Chuck
I
Mockler
have to
goes
do. I mean, that's
on.
fair. And then we're gonna have an episode out on Monday with the matchup against the Wolves happening on Tuesday. So a lot of big games. No Karl Anthony Towns in that one. But we thank everyone for listening and watching. Will, where can these people who are listening, if they're watching and they want to listen, if they're listening and they want to watch, where can they go for that?
If you're listening, you can do that wherever you listen to podcasts. If you wanted to rate and review us, you can do that over on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Help us out. We really love it. But if you want to watch this show, go check it out over on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@ClippersPodcast. We come at you, I don't even know, at least 3 times a week. So tap in. Yeah.
Tap in. It's a good time. Adam, do you want to do one positive thing? You've been having to do Adam's high five. You got any positivity in you?
Yeah, I got something positive for you guys here. Ivica Zubac is not even close to rounding into shape yet. Maybe he will this weekend. Maybe the illness that he's been dealing with is almost through him because, guys, we've talked about it before. He's the 4th most important player on this team. At worst, they need Ivica Zubac to get healthy. I bring you more good news. Do you know what players are shooting against him within 6 feet of the rim? Would you like to take a guess? Ivica Zubac this season, rim protection-wise, opponent field goal percentage. Chuck?
39.8.
Will?
36.
Point.
Even.
Well, he's only behind of guys that have been stalwarts and have played enough minutes. Kristaps Porzingis, who's at 49.3% within 6 feet of the rim, and Rudy Gobert, who's at 48.5%.
Well, we weren't even close.
We have really high standards for our center.
Well, what was the question? I'm sorry, what was the question again? I just named a
Ivica
number.
Zubac is
Sorry, I was going to
only giving up. He's only given up 49.7%. That's his opponent field goal percentage within 6 feet of the rim. He's in good company next to 2 other elite guys. He is 3rd in that area so far. Mason Plumlee's at 57%. Daniel Tice, I'm looking for it right here.
A couple of pages down.
It's above it. So can we stop with other people should be starting over Ivica Zubac? There's not much more important from your starting center that you need.
Very good point.
49% within 6 feet of the rim? He's top 3, baby.
There we go.
We got the top 3, baby. He's kissing the top 2. He's right there.
He's freaking
number
elite.
2. I mean, if he's number 2, should he even be starting?
Why wouldn't we simply start the best rim protector? We need that positivity. You're going to get that positivity on the double dip. Zoo's going to crush this week. He's a weekend and the whole week. He's going to hold Vooch under 22 and 12. He's going to stymie whoever the damn Bucks are going to throw at him. It's going to be a good weekend.
Going to run right through that illness, or it'll run through him.
He's going to run through that illness.
Daniel Tice is giving up 62% at the rim within 6 feet. Zubac is at 49%. But who was that guy that said they should start him against Minnesota?
Adam's got to go. Adam's got to go dunk his head in a bowl of ice water. We're gonna get out of here.
You know the end of Space Odyssey where you're seeing all the colors rushing at the screen. That's
you started that right after the high five. We'll be back with the full crew on Tuesday, and as always, let's go Clips.